So I made a few moves on MSTY this past week, and I want to go through those, and we'll update my spreadsheet to find out what my latest adjusted average is. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to go through and update my stock tracker sheet, and we will find out what my new average is, as I did make a few purchases. So that will bring my average up just a little bit, and that's my adjusted average, right? Because my adjusted average is so low and the purchases I made were above that. But when the prices of MSTY dropped down like this, I just could not resist. So let's first just take a look at MSTY on the Webull chart, and let's just see where it's at, and then we'll jump over and we will update my spreadsheet. But before we get into that, the video I did on generating a monthly income spreadsheet here, I still have some work to do on it before I make it available, as there are a few tweaks that I think could help these numbers out. And once I'm able to get that updated, then I will get this out for availability as well, as I see that there are some interests in getting this sheet as well. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So back to looking at MSTY on Webull. All right, so here we are on the Webull chart, and we're looking at MSTY. And this is the actual movements of the candles, right? This is not the adjusted chart. This is the actual movement chart. And as you can see, it is down, right? It dropped down again on Friday, but I did make a couple purchases this past week. And if we flip this over to the adjusted chart here, just to see where it sets on that Bollinger Band, and we can do that very quickly there. And you can see on that Bollinger Band, we are at the bottom of that Bollinger Band. And we are also sitting right here on top of this previous support line that we had drawn in. And I drew that support line in at that 1784 right there. And I put it basically at the bottom of this big long red candle right here. The bottom of that being 1784. And that's what I drew it at. It pretty much ended right there at that support line. We did drop down below it some, and if you were online and saw that, you might have probably picked up a few extra shares, right? Especially being at 1759 being the low. But like I said, we are at the bottom of that Bollinger Band, and that RSI2 is below the 10. So those are some good buy points for me. And that is, of course, only if you are bullish MSTY / Mr. and Bitcoin, right? Because if you're not, then you may need to adjust your position in MSTY. But I just wanted to take a quick little look just to see where it ended up on Friday. Now let's just go ahead and jump right over to my spreadsheet, and let's just see what and where I'm setting currently on my average for MSTY. All right, so here we are on my stock tracker sheet for MSTY, and this is the one that is available in the pinned comment and in the description. This sheet is used to help you track your purchased share average, and then also utilizing the distributions, and if you are selling any options and generating that premium earned here, then it will also help you to calculate that adjusted price per share, which I like to call it my real price per share, right? And as you can see, currently I'm at $2.09 at my adjusted price per share. I had $10,797.23 invested, but I have earned a total here of about $9,800. Right? So my capital that's left at risk is only $907.15. Now, of course, that's getting ready to change because I did make some purchases. So this is getting ready to increase slightly. And that, of course, then will adjust my adjusted price per share, right? That is definitely going to go up because the purchase prices would be above the $2.09, and therefore this will increase. Now, the one that will decrease will be my purchased share price average, and that is the average at what I have been purchasing the shares at, right? So my new purchases are below the $24.82, so this number will decrease, but my real price per share will end up increasing. But that's okay, because the price of MSTY lately has just been too good to pass up, in my opinion, and that's my opinion only. Do not follow my trades. Make your own decisions and do your own research before you get into any stock plays, right? So let's just go right ahead and let's enter in my new entries. And to do that, we'll go right over here to the individual stock purchases and entries. And I'll scroll right on down because I've made a few of them, right? I've made a few of them. And we will enter in the date. And the date that I made this one was on August the 14th. And I paid per share at $18.40, right? And how many shares did I get? I bought 5 more shares for a total spent of $92. And of course, it adjusts all these numbers up here because I had 435 shares. Now I have 440 shares. My next entry was on that same day, right? It was just still dropping and I just could not pass up, and I still didn't get the bottom, right? But I ended up getting these shares at $18 even. And how many shares did I buy? Well, I bought 5 more. And that put me at spending $90 for those 5 shares. And again, we are adjusting all of our numbers up here. So if you are watching, you'll see all these values up here just changing. And my last purchase was the next day. On 8/15, I ended up purchasing these at $17.80. Now, since it was below that $18 mark, I just had to end up doubling up here, right? And I know it's not a whole lot, right? But I did end up getting 10 shares here, right? So I ended up getting a bit more, and that ended up spending a total of $178 for that purchase. Now, keep in mind, for me, the reason I am doing small values here on my purchases, right? I'm doing 5s and 5s and 5s and 10, right? Not doing 100 or 200 shares right now. And that is just simply because my ultimate goal is to get this number right here, where it now has moved to $2.78 as my real price per share. I want that down to 0, because once that is 0 or negative, then I own my shares 100% free and clear. And at that point, then every distribution I get, I can take a percentage of that and roll it back in, or I can roll the whole thing back in and buy more shares, right? To help increase that next distribution amount. But I still will be very cautious at what prices that I buy my shares at. As you know, my buy points are when the candle is at the bottom half of that Bollinger Band and that RSI 2 is under 10. So even once I get this paid off, I'm still going to select when I make my purchases. I will not turn on the drip to where it just automatically buys, because I think that I can possibly, and not guaranteed, but possibly pick a better price by watching the graph. But again, that is not guaranteed. You may get lucky and get a good buy point using drip. But for me, I like to keep the control, so I will select when I'm going to make those purchases. Now, we do have another distribution coming up at the end of the month, but we do not have one to enter in at this point. Now, our last distribution was $1.18, but we will be receiving another one at the end of the month. And the last thing that I made a change on is my options trade here. as you can see, this one right here, it's showing a $20 put that I had open that would expire on August 15th, which was this past Friday. Now, since MSTY was under that $20 mark, and we can see right over here the current price, and that was the closing price for Friday of $17.86, right? So it was definitely below that $20 mark. So if I would have left it, I would have been assigned 100 shares because I had one contract, right? So I would have been assigned 100 shares at $20 per share. Now I could have done that, and then I would have owned those 100 additional shares at 20 bucks each, but that would have affected my overall goal right here. And this is my overall goal, and that is to get this paid off. Because if that would have went through, this would have increased, which would then increase the number of possible payouts that I would have in order to get MSTY paid off. So what did I do? I ended up rolling that $20 put yet again. As you can see, the one before was $22, right? And then I rolled it to 20, and that was to expire this past Friday. So on 8/13, I rolled that put, and I rolled it out to September the 19th, like I had mentioned before. And that put, which was at originally 20 bucks, right? And I rolled it to the $19 put. And I rolled it, so I'm typing roll here, and it's a put with one contract, right? So I rolled that previous down to 19 and out 1 month to September 19th, right? And for doing so, I earned 41 cents per share. And each contract is 100 shares, so that is 41 cents times 100 shares being 41 bucks, right? And that's what I earned for that roll. So I like to type in my equation here just so that when I look back, I can see how I got the value, right? So I like to put in my 41 cents times 100 shares, and how many contracts that I had? I had one contract. Now you can do this on a calculator. If you don't like to enter in the formulas, that's fine. Type it in on a calculator and then punch in that value right here, and that'll work as well. But like I said, I like to do this so I can look back and I can see exactly what I earned for that roll, which is 41 cents per share, and I had that one contract. But I also had a fee that I had to pay, right, for making that roll. The fee is pretty low for Webull, but I still like to show that, as that does get deducted from the $41. And that fee was only 11 cents. So that will automatically do the calculation for me. But like I said, you can do that on calculator, and then you would just punch in that $40.89 if that was the value that you calculated. And for me, that is my value there. So after my fee, I actually earned $40.89, and that value helps to go toward my premium earned up here, and that does affect my adjusted price per share, right? Because before I entered this, it was $2.78, but now it is $2.70, right? Now, granted, it did go up because I did make those purchases. But like I said, when MSTY is under that $18, I mean, I just couldn't resist. But I had to keep my buys low just simply because I did not want to mess up my number one goal here. And that is just for me, right? You have different goals. You have different ways that you are purchasing and different outcomes that you're looking for on your MSTY position. But for me, I am looking to get mine paid off so that I don't ever have to worry any longer about what those distributions would be. Because at that point, as long as they pay out a distribution, it is in the positive for me, right? So that is what I did there. Now, since I did roll this position, that means this one here is now closed out. So what I will do here is I will just change the text there, and I'll just make it red, and then I will do a strike through because it no longer exists, right? That roll no longer exists, that contract, because I've rolled it to this new contract, and this is now the one that is open. Now I still have that $25 call for also September 19th expiration date, but that one here, it is only worth now about $6. Now I got paid $24, and I could close it right now and only have to pay $6, and therefore I would end up making a total after that payout would be about 18 bucks, right? Because I'd have to subtract the 6 from it because I'd have to pay to close it. But since it's a $25 call, and since the price of MSTY is $17.86, I'm not too worried about it, right? I'm just going to let this one ride for a while, and who knows, maybe MSTY will get back up to that, but even if it does, I may just let it go, right? Because at $25, I am still going to make a profit, because selling at 25 and my actual purchase average being 24.52 means those would sell at a profit. And then I can take that money and I can put it toward whatever I want. But if it does not get to 25 by September 19th, then this contract will just expire because it did not make it to the $25 call, and therefore the contract expires. So that covers all of my position changes and trades that I did make this past week. And let's just look and summarize what the changes now are showing. So I now have 455 shares at a purchased share price of $24.52. My capital invested now is $11,157.23. The distributions I've earned are still $9,141.32. And my premium earned is $789.65. The total current market value of those 455 shares at the current price of $17.86 is $8,126.30. So my calculated adjusted capital invested is only $1,226.26, right? So that is basically the amounts that I have earned subtracted from the capital that I have invested. So that $900 previously now has moved to $1,200, right? Because I did make those additional purchases. But at that $1,226.26 divided by the number of shares I do have, that puts me at about a $2.70 real price per share, or adjusted price per share, which takes into account the amounts that I have earned and captured so far. So the percentage that I've earned back on this position is a total of about 89%. And if I were to sell my shares at the current price of $17.86, right? And I was just saying, you know what? I'm done with it and I'm jumping out. I would still come out with a positive amount of $6,900.04. And that's what's shown right here. Now that is not on top of my distributions and premium earned, right? That is the total amount that I would actually make by selling the shares and accounting for any distributions that I have earned. I would clear $6,900.04. So just to show you that even if I were to sell out at a loss of $17.86, right? Because my purchase share price over here is $24.52. So that is a loss on the share purchase price sell. But the fact that since I have earned those distributions and the premium, that is what gets me to the $6,900 right here. And that is, like I said, what I would actually clear after all is said and done. Now I'm still showing a weighted average here of about $1.84. And according to that, it would take me just under 2 payments, right? Or 2 distributions in order to be able to get my average price per share right here to 0. And once that happens, then it will start actually calculating these boxes right here. And that will tell me how much money that I have above my break even that I can use to buy the number of shares and still keep it under that break even part, right? And otherwise still being paid off. I am very close to getting there, but when Misty keeps giving me these prices, that does push it a little bit. But so far, I am still within those 2 payments. Now, those 2 payments, though, keep in mind, that is utilizing this $1.84 average. So if we don't get a $1.84 average, and we are getting that dollar average, then that will mean that that will take me probably another distribution worth, right? Because I need $2.70. And if we're only going to get paid $1 per share, then I would need 3 payouts, right, to get $3 worth, and then I would be 30 cents in the good. So either way, I am very close to getting this paid off. That is why my share purchase quantities over here are small, right? Because I do not want to push this out too far. I have to stick with my overall plan and my goal, which is to get this real price per share to 0. And then I can do whatever I want at that point. So again, if you would like a copy of this spreadsheet, and it will have a blank one just like this right here, where you can enter in your own purchases, your own distributions, and any premium you are selling. And if you're not selling premium, then this will just be blank, and it will help you calculate the purchase price along with your real adjusted price per share, right? That is the main one for me. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. I'm excited that I'm still under the $3 per share on my adjusted price per share. So for me, in my mind, I am looking at about 3 more payments in the distribution, and I am hoping to get my MSTY paid off. So if you don't mind, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.